It is 15 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. A blessed and beautiful one to you and yours. It is Self-Love and Development Mondays, and we kickstarted off with just having an overview of wealth, defining Nepo babies, defining trust fund babies, and people who come from generational wealth. And this contrasted with what is perceived to be the ideal or the average African's experience. And so, that being the very first part of the conversation, I hope it primed you for what is to come, because we now get into the psychology of everything. So, inherited financial or practical support plays an undeniable role in shaping psychological and entrepreneurial landscapes of young people. Now, research in behavioral economics and developmental psychology consistently shows that economic security is deeply linked to self-esteem, risk tolerance, and mental well-being. Young individuals with access to family wealth or generational safety, and of course these coming across the safety nets, often develop higher psychological safety, which in turn boosts their confidence to innovate, to fail, and to try again. Something that might not be as accessible for the average Joe, who still believes that they need to firstly push through the current status of their family's disposition, only to have the burden of shouldering black tax. Now, in this conversation, we explored the intersection of inherited wealth, psychological confidence, and socioeconomic inequality. How much inherited support really matters is also fundamentally something we're going to be talking about. And joining us in the studio, one more time, Juliane Hoss. She's a therapist, and she's here to help us gauge self. Juliane, thank you so much for coming through again. Welcome to the show.
A huge pleasure.
Awesome.
I'm happy to be here.
So, Juliane, we had quite the conversation with Galstone Anthony, who was firstly saying generational wealth is not something the present day African will experience if it's not in their lineage. You're looking for a push up to the third generation to be speaking of generational wealth. Right now, you are trying to amass funding that would support the systems that develop generational wealth. That can have an effect on your mental state. You almost feel like, okay, what happens to me? Let's talk about that association between money and self-worth, your place in society. Let's just bring that to the fore.
Yeah, definitely. And I must say, it's an interesting topic for me to speak about, because also if we think of the first in a family and the opportunities, I think it's nothing that I've experienced directly for myself, but I see it also with friends around. Yeah. And especially now in their 30s, a lot of friends who come from families now realizing that actually we will not build that wealth. We will not get there. I've noticed that sometimes when it kicks in, it nearly feels like, is this then all that is to just working, trying, getting the funding, somehow keeping my family above water or head above water? Yeah. And it also, I've noticed, especially in my environment, but with some clients, that it can sometimes also come with a bit of a sense of envy or jealousy to say, wow, but I'm doing exactly the same or even more, and what I'm getting out or what I see happening around me is just a tiny bit of what others are able to build who had that backing from their family. Yeah. And it can really also result in a sense of anger or frustration or lack of motivation. But on the other hand, it can also be a source of inspiration to say, and yet I'm doing it, and I'm also doing it and sharing it with the ones around me. But the matter of fact is that, especially if we're looking at the economic system, having an income is completely different from having wealth and something to fall back onto. And we see that a lot of people with an income still live in precarious situations, with that anxiety that you don't actually know what you would fall back onto tomorrow if your employer is no longer that positive, like it's no longer your best friend, or maybe if your business is not turning out the way you hoped to. Yeah. And that's what wealth is different, in a sense that it gives you that backing, you have something to fall back to, and it comes with a completely different sense of security or safety.
Juliane, can we build that level of confidence? I'm asking this because there is research that shows that financial stability allows you to explore. You're not scared of failure. You can try out new ventures and not feel like you're going to fall flat on your face and give up on life because it didn't work out. Can one build the level of confidence required to be able to explore the building of financial wealth without stumbling and falling and feeling like your world is ending because this business deal didn't close, or your employer is just like, yeah, we don't want to hear you so much anymore, Shayla? You know, can you build that confidence?
I still remember like my first mentor, like in South Africa, a
Yeah.
man I really, really, really look up to, and he taught me so much. And he said to me at the time, he said, Juliane, it's a very, very interesting dynamic between what a person brings to the world and what the world brings to the person. And he said, and in everything you're going to do and you will learn. And I was in my second year of university.
Okay.
And he was actually the head also of the student accommodation where the internationals were placed. And he said, in everything you're going to learn, I just want to encourage you, never ever underestimate one of the two. And I think we would be lying to say that, you know, this idea of pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, that you can build the same level of safety and confidence without the financial backing. Because what we know is that the structures we live in and the resources we have and the support we have from that sense, they are having a material impact on how our life looks like, but also how our mental health is shaped. And for a long time, psychology actually ignored that. And psychology ignored what it means like to live in poverty or in precarious situations, focused on individual students in psychological labs at US universities. But now we actually know how it affects us. Because there was this idea that, oh no, people who struggle, but yeah, they're so happy. No, that was just a lack of research. So I think we definitely need to be very honest about the impact it has and about how much harder people have to work who don't have that backing from growing up or from childhood. And at the same time, I think what is possible is to build excellence and to build a focus and an inspiration on your work. I think it comes with less or with more uncertainty that you have to endure. And at the same time, I've seen it over and over and over again in a lot of people around, that something gives them an ongoing drive and an ongoing nearly like resilience, that they say, and I will hold on to the opportunities that I'm out there to create, which I think it's impressive in that sense.
Yeah.
Because it comes at a much higher risk than you just thinking, oh, let me see how far I can go, but I always have a safe bet to fall into.
Sure. Juliane, let's paint a picture of the emotions, the thoughts, the mental state that not having the safety net draws you toward. And I'm saying this because sometimes people feel guilty for feeling negative feelings, because it's like, I should be grateful I have employment, or I should be grateful that I can work, I can provide. And there's almost this tug of war between you feeling what's really going on within you and you wanting to appear okay, even to yourself. So maybe let's address the emotions and the headspace that one can possibly find themselves, should they be stuck in this conundrum where they're like, I want to amass wealth, but I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime. And it doesn't feel like I'm doing it right now because of the pressure.
So I think one factor that is definitely hard is that also you have no access to how life is being done, or for example, how business is being done, or how decisions are being made, or how experiences are when you come from a family where you are the first. So often there are misperceptions that a lot of young people think, if I make one mistake, or if one deal doesn't go so well, or if I'm not the most productive on one day, it means the train of opportunities will leave without me, because they haven't seen it from maybe their own parents or people around them, that you'll fall and you can get up again. So that also comes with a bit of a destabilizing force on your mental health. And I think what helps here is to actually build relationships with people who can introduce you and be the person who tells you, you know, you fell now, let's pick you up again, because this is part of how a professional journey or how an entrepreneurial journey will evolve. So I think that is definitely one challenge that one also needs to look at. The other thing, how it affects people, is what you were just saying, that utter sense of loneliness. If you're struggling, but you always have this idea that I should be grateful, that a lot of young people who are the first in their family don't know where to turn to because something is missing. They're feeling a void. They're not feeling as happy as they should be. But if they go home and they say that, they really sound like, they're throwing it back into their families or communities face. Because what we also need to remember, if you are the first in a family, it comes with massive sacrifice of the people who have raised you, and often a whole ecosystem that's been leaning towards creating opportunities for you. And I think what we also need to understand is that we make sense of the world by what gap we perceive. So if you come from a family environment where there is a lack of financial resources, surely this is what the family will focus on, because this is keeping the family from developing full potential and also from developing or being healthy. Let's face it. And then if that gap is closed, the older generations will assume that all of the things like your happiness, your health, all of it will follow, only to realize that the next generation, who then has more financial stability or a regular income, will realize that it doesn't solve for how they feel on a day-to-day, that they can still feel burnt out, that they can still feel sad, lonely, depressed, or even unhealthy, or that they can really also just be miserable in that life. Which I always call is the generational relay, that the parents then pass it on and the children have to say, okay, now I have to take this forward. How do I create this life that is a bit more stable? Yes, work towards generating wealth, and also work towards the promises that come or should have come with it, a sense of being healthy, being happy, having self-efficacy to create my life. And that is super hard. And often the mental state I pick up in a lot of people is utter confusion. Because the promise that they work towards is that I've ticked all of the boxes. If I reach the stability, the other things will follow.
The voice of Juliane Hoss joining us this evening. We are talking about amassing wealth, you being the lead in your family. Perhaps you're the first of the lot who has found themselves in favorable employment. You started that business. It's exciting. It's good. You feel like, listen, I'm about to thrive. And then a cap comes because responsibilities come and black tax comes. And the economy is not easy on you either. And so now you are feeling quite a number of things. And Juliane Hoss is here to help us, firstly, unpack what it is we are feeling. Secondly, how to deal with it. Because, listen, it doesn't help to just talk about feelings. We want solutions to the experiences that we are having, but we also want to be able to healthily go through our own process. If you have your questions, find us on WhatsApp +27 6340 9126. Juliane, something that stands out for me specific to these experiences is the identity or the caliber of understanding identity, or rather how you associate your identity to what it is your pocket has. And I think that for me is a little scary, right? That you'd come from a home and we don't have the context or know the context. But the minute you begin to amass money more than what you're familiar with, that becomes your identity. That becomes who you are. I'm the one who got more. I'm the first. How dangerous is it for us to think that way?
What always scares me so much is also when I see it around friends or clients who are those first, it comes with that pressure. Like you were saying, there are a lot of financial demands, but I'm also always so impressed by how often the family looks towards that person, often a younger person, also for counsel or guidance or advice. Nearly that you would call upon the first that now has financial stability to just come and quickly solve challenges in the family, to quickly come up with solutions, to quickly have a good advice. And I always ask myself, what is the pressure on this young person? Because I think the family they come from that didn't have those financial means thinks that once you have that, life is easy, so surely that person can solve everything we're struggling with.
Sure.
within a few seconds.
Yeah.
But life is not like this. And I think that is hard, because how do you now go back home and say, yes, maybe I have access to more money, but I'm also lost with this challenge that you're bringing to the table. It's nearly like you can't say that. So there's the financial pressure. Then there's the pressure to solve, to take responsibility, to take charge, to fix the things at home. And then there's also the pressure to be of guidance to all of the other family members. And all of this comes with so much pressure and responsibility that a lot of the people who are the first even find it hard to treat themselves to a bar of chocolate.
Sure.
Because everything you do for yourself, you could have actually used at home to improve the situation, especially of those who've sacrificed so much. So something that is really incredibly hard to learn in such a situation is that I can also be good to myself. I can support myself. I can get small things for myself. And that's why a lot of that pressure puts a lot of young people at a high risk of being lonely, sometimes even burning out, and sometimes also just feeling a little bit defeated or bitter to say, I don't even want anything to do with all of that.
Sure. We were talking about something Oprah said.
Yeah, I
Right?
love that.
Please share it with us.
So I've always tried to observe, like, who that has a background that demands a lot still navigates through life, and I had the impression that would have a sense of joy and excitement. And for me, what always stood out was just the friendships that people had and the conversations that they had about the demands, about the pressures that came from home. And I always observed that if within the friendship group, or nearly a peer-to-peer group, or having a mentor where you would encourage each other to say, yes, let's do what we have to do or want to do at home, and at the same time let's put something aside for us, what we want to experience, what we want to enjoy. And then through that, having a way of also looking out for us as friends and for ourselves. I always thought that that was a very, very big factor in creating a life that you can still enjoy as a first while taking responsibility. And I love that concept of Oprah, because I think what feels so heavy, and you can even see it sometimes when a friend picks up a call, and just from the way their face drops and their shoulders drop, you can see that there is a financial demand at the other side of the line that they don't know how to respond to at the moment. And maybe even if they have the money, there was something they were really looking forward to doing with that money, and now they feel obliged to give it away. And you can even see from their face that it takes a lot.
Yeah.
And I like the idea where Oprah said she hosted a dinner of the dinner of yes. And the idea was that she decided for every family member what she wanted to do for them. What was her yes? So instead of taking the call and feeling like, I want to say no, can I say no this time? She had this idea that she will say yes to, this is what I want to give you. This is your present. This is your support. This is my financial contribution to your education. And she decided that for each family member, and she hosted the dinner, and she said, and then that's it. Please don't ask afterwards. But it came from a spirit of sharing and saying yes.
Yeah.
And that for me is also one option to approach, to say, let's take a step back as a young person who's the first in the family. What do you want to share? And can you then somehow put guardrails to that this is what I allocate, that I want to share with others, and then this is also what I budget for the month, and after that I protect some of my money for my future, for my financial security, and also for the legacy or the wealth you want to build. So learning to say yes again and not just no is one idea.
What is your yes as opposed to what are your no's?
Yeah.
I love that. The voice there of therapist Juliane Hoss joining us in studio. We're chatting all things wealth mindset, and I'm going to term it a wealth mindset, because we're learning to undo the pressures, the traumas, the weight that we have taken in as a cluster. Perhaps you are part of the cluster of the first in university, first to work, first to earn a really thick salary, first to be able to start multiple businesses success, and you are feeling pressure from all angles, you are hard pressed, and you're saying, I don't know how to navigate this terrain, this conversation is for you. And if you are not that person, you're saying, Shayla, listen, I'm okay, I don't need this, maybe your friend does. Okay, so tell them to tune in. Find us on DSTV's 802, if not 628, on OpenView HD. Let's take a quick breather.